Hey, what's going on, Live Bellingham Now? This is Max Burge here with my friend Christie, the owner of Westward Threads, and today we're going to take a look at some of what she's got going on. One of the super cool things that Christie does is home portraits, and I can personally attest that they make wonderful closing gifts, customized to the specific houses, neighborhoods, all kinds of things. We'll learn more about that, but really great gifts, super cool stuff.
Hi, I'm Christie Herndon. I'm owner of Westward Threads. Yeah, I paint, I am a photographer, I am a mural artist. Yeah, I experiment with artistic media and share the result with friends and clients. It kind of started freshly out of COVID. I was making Christmas gifts for a lot of my family. It actually started with embroidery, and I, after Christmas, kind of wanted to keep doing it, but I didn't want to like have a bunch of stuff that I had done laying around my house. So I thought, you know, why don't I try selling it? So I started with embroidery, and then I started doing embroidery classes and kits and that kind of thing. And then, you know, as the warmer months rolled around, I was ready to do something that got me outside a little bit more, and watercolor was that. So yeah, I've switched over to that, and it's kind of stuck. So I grew up painting murals. When I was a little girl, my mom would put up these big sheets of butcher paper on our fence, and my sisters and I would just, you know, paint and glue our favorite Barbies onto them. But yeah, it's always been a big part of my life, and I really enjoyed art classes in high school, and then decided to go to community college and got my Associate of Fine Arts degree, and then still didn't know really what I wanted to do, so I kept kind of pursuing it almost accidentally, and here I am now, still doing it, so yeah. A lot of my work is inspired by like adventures outside with my, you know, husband and dog, and we are avid hikers and skiers, and so we spend a lot of time up in the Mount Baker Wilderness, and even at the park here. I gather a lot of inspiration from being outside, kind of away from town and people. But I'm also inspired by a lot of our travels. Whenever we go to a new place, I take my watercolors with me, and I'll, you know, sit at a pub or a coffee shop with Kellen and my husband, and we'll just hang out and watch people, and I'll paint the room that we're in, and, you know, that kind of ends up being the inspiration for a lot of my work as well.
What's it like to create a mural, and how does that differ from your traditional portraits that you do?
The murals are a lot more, you might be surprised by it, but they're a bit more digital, which is kind of a fun, you know, you get a little bit of both worlds, because watercolor is very tactile and has a mind of its own, and digital is very rigid and, you know, it's technical. So if, for example, with this mural, I started the design on my iPad, just had a picture of the sisters that I had taken that I knew, you know, I kind of wanted to paint it after, and then I just start playing with shapes in my iPad and sketching on top of that, and then I'll take it and project the image onto the surface, which in this case was the garage door, and then trace it out, and then I paint it. So it's yeah, it's a great time to listen to podcasts and audiobooks. But
are there any businesses or places in the public of Bellingham that people can find your murals?
Yeah, I painted a mountain mural specifically of Mount Baker. It's kind of meant to look sort of gem-like, lots of little shapes and facets and stuff. It's on a client's wall out in an Edward Jones office in Linden. I'm really excited about that one. It was kind of a really quick turnaround, and it was a whirlwind, but it's probably my favorite one that I've done so far. Yeah.
Are there any commissioned pieces, portraits or murals, that stand out to you as a really special story or something that you've been a part of?
Yeah, actually, there are a couple. Actually, there was one of my earlier house portraits was a large painting of this beautiful purple house. I think I'm not sure if I would call it Victorian era or not, but it's kind of up off of State Street, kind of on South Hill. There's a gentleman up on the hill there who owns that purple house, and he moved here from the East Coast and was kind of all over the United States before that. I mean, he just found this house and fell in love with it and did some things to really make it his own and kind of add his personal touch inside and outside. And then, you know, his mom and dad came over to visit him, and you know, it's probably the only time they were going to be able to come and see the house in person just because of their age and health. So I had the opportunity to paint the outside of that house, but then also a number of the interior spaces too. And so he framed them and gave them to her as a gift, but it was just was a really moving story of his being all over the place and then getting to settle in such an incredible home. Well, I ended up in Bellingham because my husband's got a bunch of family here, and I went to Western, and that's where we met. So I am one of the many Western perpetuators. So I've been here since I graduated Western. I love Bellingham so much just because obviously the geography. I mean, we're right by Mount Baker ski area. I'm an avid skier. We've got an incredible backyard to hike and camp in and to appreciate and share. And then, you know, the ocean is also pretty cool, so we're here with that too. It's hard to not come up with a reason to love Bellingham. I just feel like it's home, and it's just a lot of great community here.
Tell me about Harold. Who's Harold?
Harold. Yeah, he's a hedgehog, and he's blue. He's a character born out of my own sort of journey with mental health. He started out being kind of this like quiet little character who hangs out in the woods, you know, but he's a little nervous and, you know, just reminds me when everything feels overwhelming and it's too big, that it's okay to just take a step back, slow down, focus on what's in front of you, and it's gonna be okay. You know, there are so many great, peaceful things to do with our minds instead of worry and be anxious.
Christie, why don't you tell me where we're at and what we're going to be seeing?
Yeah, this is my artist studio nook in my house. Yeah, and we're going to take a look at some of the watercolors that I've painted, as well as a special commission that I've just been finishing for you.
Nice, awesome. Obviously, you work with several different mediums, but what is it that draws you to watercolor?
Well, first of all, one of my favorite things about watercolor is that it's super easy to travel with. Mm-hmm. It dries quickly, it's very packable, can take pretty much everything I need for watercolor just in this little tin, plus my little tiny mason jar for water. The other thing I love about watercolor is that it kind of has a mind of its own. So whenever you've got, you know, water on the page and you add pigment to it, it kind of flowers and takes its own form. And then when it dries is when you actually get to see what it's going to look like. So yeah, it's just a very, it's got a mind of its own. It's very fun.
That is kind of cool about watercolor. I guess I haven't done much watercolor ever. Maybe like as a child.
Yeah?
But it's kind of cool. I see what you mean, because everyone's different, right? Because the colors kind of like bleed and run and all that. That's really cool.
Usually with a house portrait, I'll grid it out. So I'll have a photograph that I'm working off of, and then I'll sort of separate it into a grid so that I'm able to reproduce it on the page. So I don't have a reference photo right now. I'll kind of just give you an idea of what I mean. So say that this is roughly the size and shape I'm going for, and I know, it's going to be a 4x6 painting. So I'll roughly divide this into 6. Okay, and then I'll divide it by 4. And then I would have the same grid on a similar photograph, and I could work off of that. In the case of, for example, this one that I'm working on today, I would start with kind of the outline of the building, and we would just do kind of some basic shapes to start. The roof line comes up towards us, so we want to make sure to capture that. Okay, and then it's got a staggered roof line too, so I remember that this piece comes down. There's that roof. Okay, so this comes all the way down, and then I start to add some windows, just kind of sketch them in with pencil to start, and I'll just draw a couple more shapes here, and then I'll show you the next phase. And I remember there being a very cute little umbrella here, so I'm going to include that. So let's say that that's our house, and instead of finishing it's a very intricate bottom, but I'm just going to say that this is pretend that this is like a garage or something. Okay, and this is the yard. There, and maybe a driveway and a front door. We'll make this a front door. So the next step then is I'll take one of my markers. These are all waterproof and archival, so they won't fade in sunlight. And I'll go back and I'll trace over them. And I really like, there's some balance between like a perfectly straight line and that sort of sketchy outline. And you don't want it to be, rigid like a photograph, because otherwise you'd get a photograph, right? Like that's like part of the aesthetic of a watercolor that you like. So then I'll come back and I will erase all of the pencil. Oops. And then I'll fill it in with the watercolor. What color do we want the house to be?
Ooh, we do like teal.
Teal. I love it. We'll have to like kind of make my own nice phthalo green.
There you go.
We'll add some blue.
Do you often have to kind of mix your own shades, or do a lot of your kits usually come with a pretty wide range?
I have a wide range of blues and greens, but I always mix them with something. But my most used colors are warm primaries and cool primaries, because you can make pretty much any color in the world if you've got those, and then black and white, of course, are helpful. White doesn't do a lot in watercolor because it's
usually the backdrop.
Yeah, it's usually the backdrop. But yeah, most of the colors that I use, I mix my own. What color do we want the umbrella to be?
Ooh, could do orange.
Oh yeah, I'm liking this bold color choice. I actually have used watercolor a few times to help clients figure out what color they want their house to be.
Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's a really fun process, actually. It's very enjoyable.
So they'll just send you a picture of the house that they've bought and then basically be like, okay, make us a paint swatch.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, they'll be like, well, what would it look like if it was like, brown with dark brown trim, or like,
You'd be a great person to talk to about what color to paint a house.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. What color trim.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a fun, it's just like playing. It's like kid pics, is what it feels like. It's like, okay, like we've got this outline. Well, this color. How about that color?
Yeah.
It's just fun. So I just mixed a warm red with a warm yellow to get orange. Sometimes if you mix, this is something I learned just kind of by accident, but you have to, if you want really like crisp, clear, bright colors, you have to mix, primaries of the same temperature, which is, not something I had ever thought of before. So there we go. I've got our little orange umbrella.
Dabbing it off with paper towel?
Yeah.
Just to like absorb some of the excess
water? It's for some of the excess water, because the more water you have, the more it'll try to buckle when it dries, but it also allows me to make kind of deeper layers. So, these I've painted without much of that, and they're kind of towards the front. But, if you look at a mountain, with different sort of layers to it, it gets lighter in the back. That's atmospheric perspective. And so if you paint the succeeding layers lighter, they actually do appear to be further away in the painting. So there you go. So we'll add the address in there. I'm just gonna add a couple little texture details. All right. This is probably the most satisfying part.
Seriously, that looks like one of the nice final touches.
Yeah. It's that like crisp edge.
Sorry, follow-up question, unrelated kind of, but what's your favorite art store in town? If you need to buy supplies, where do you go?
Hands down, Dakota Art Store.
Dakota Art.
Yeah, yep. Dakota Art Store is the best. I've got a pal there, her name is Jill, and we talk every time I go in.
What kind of products do you sell on your website other than portraits?
I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got art prints, stickers. I've got something that I'm really, really excited about. I just ordered my first set of mugs from Mirror.
Oh, no way.
Do you know that company that makes those like really nice,
like
stainless?
the ones?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're like vacuum sealed. But I got one of my mountain designs, like etched, like laser etched on there.
That's so cool.
Honestly, it's like a dream come true. I can't believe it. So that was probably my most expensive inventory purchase I've ever made, but absolutely worth it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited for that. So I'll have those on my website soon. I also just ordered my 2024 Harold and Bud calendars.
Sweet.
There you have it.
Beautiful.
Sweet.
Well, I have a website, westwardthreads.com is probably the best place to reach out. I'm also on Instagram at Westward Threads.
Well, Christy, thanks a lot for having us here today, giving us the tour of the studio, quick little paint lesson, and the rundown on all the creative, artsy, cool things you do here. Thanks a lot for having us. And if you want to check out more of her work, you can find that at all of these places listed below.